My name is Chef Rashaad, and you're joining me for the secret ingredient. Today we're going to show you how to make love on a plate. I'm starting off with the crust of the blueberry pie. We're going to be making a blueberry cobbler. So this is going to be a simple biscuit dough. Now I made this dough, well, I learned how to make this dough from my grandmother. All right, so all of your traditional techniques might not be seen here, all right, because I'm going to be using my hands and my eyes as far as measuring. So what we're going to do is we're going to be starting with some all-purpose flour. Simple, easy, and then we're going to use baking powder. All right, the baking powder is going to give us rise, and then we're going to cut in our butter, or we're going to pinch in our butter. So what I'm doing is, one, I'm putting flour on my hands so that I can grab the butter. All right, I'm going to use the heat from my hands so it slowly melts the butter as I'm pinching it in. And this right here is where, when everybody asks me what the secret ingredient is, it's the magic, all right? It's the love in the food, everything you put into the food, and it's not so much as like what you buy, is who you cook it for. So I like to always imagine either a beautiful woman or my family, all right? And that's my motivation. If I don't have the right motivation, the food might not taste delicious. No, it's gonna taste delicious. I don't know how to make it not taste delicious. All right, so what we're doing now, if you take a look at the flour, it's starting to resemble like wet sand, all right? So we're gonna keep adding butter because butter is deliciousness, all right? All right, so I already have my ready-made gloves on, and this is what allows me to work with the dough. When the flour's on my hands, it won't stick to the dough, all right? So if you notice, the flour has these little bitty beads of butter in it, and that lets me know that there's enough butter to flour ratio. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of cream, just a little bit, just to bring it all together, all right? You're not trying to make a batter, we're not trying to make a wet, sloppy dough, we just want to make it wet enough. You know what I mean when I say wet enough? If you don't know wet enough, you don't know enough love. All right, so as the dough starts to come together, we're gonna work it with our hands, but we don't want to overwork it because then it's gonna cause the butter to melt. So I'm just gonna do a little pressing on it. It might look like I'm squeezing, but you want to be gentle and firm, all right? It's just like when you with your kids, you know. You gotta love them a lot and discipline a little. So you squeeze a little bit on this dough, but don't squeeze too hard, and then it all comes together. All right, so now that we got our dough made up, we're gonna make our filling to our cobbler. All right, so in this method, we're using the cooked juice method. Why I say the cooked juice method? Because we're only cooking the juice, all right? If we cook the fruit, then the fruit is going to turn into mush and we'll have jelly instead of cobbler. All right, so first part of the cooked juice method is the juice. What I did is I let some water, some cranberry juice sit on top of the frozen berries, and then I poured that off. Definitely going to add some sugar to it because it ain't going to be cobbler if it ain't sweet. All right, now we got to add some spices. All right, spices is like, it's part of the date where the drinks and the food come out, all right? This is what makes the love happen. We're gonna use a little bit of cardamom. If you don't know what cardamom is, it's C-A-R-D-O-M, okay? It's more of an Indian spice, but it's sweet and it's just deliciousness, all right? It's hard for me to explain what something tastes like, but I need you to get to it. All right, we got cinnamon, and we got cardamom. All right, when cinnamon and cardamom hits the air, that's just all right, that's the part of love that doesn't have any words to it, if you know what I mean. And then we're gonna add us a little bit of vanilla. All right, vanilla is the equivalent to like that that first kiss on a date. All right, it lets you know if you're getting a call back or you're never gonna see her again. All right. So once we got all of our spices and our sugar and everything is smelling real good, we're going to take some cornstarch and we're going to thicken it up. All right. If you've ever or if you never worked with cornstarch, you got to add a little water to it. All right. I'm going to get a little water. I'll be right back. All right. Now with cornstarch, what we're going to do is just take a little bit here. We're going to take us about a teaspoon of cornstarch and we're going to add it to our water. And once we do that, we're going to add it to our cooked juice method and it's going to start to thicken up. Do not, and I'm going to tell you again, do not just dump your cornstarch slurry into your mixture. What you want to do is you want to pour it in while you're stirring it, because if not, it's going to create these little dumpling dough balls and it's going to look ugly. It's not going to taste right. So you just want to make sure you incorporate your cornstarch right. And a lot of people think just because you follow a recipe, it's going to be perfect. But the one thing you gotta do, you gotta taste. Damn, that's good. That's good. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take our fruit, which is our blueberries. All right. And then we're going to take our cooked juice, all right? So once we see that our cooked juice is thickening up, if you see the little bubbles, that lets you know that you are reducing and you're thickening your juice, all right? The big rolling bubbles, that means you're not thick enough. And if you don't know what thick enough is, eat some cornbread. All right, we're going to pour our juice right over there. We're going to let them just come together. All right, let me get some ramekins and I'm gonna start spooning up my cobbler. All right, so now we're gonna put our cobbler mixture into our ramekins here. Now I like to make sure I have a juicy cobbler. All right, so you don't want a thick, dry cobbler, you want a juicy cobbler, all right? You can't describe something juicy and have it be bad, right? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start pinching my dough into my cobbler, all right? See, I don't have to roll it out. I don't have to do like a pie crust. It's just gonna be a simple pinch method so that this doesn't take too long, you know? So using my ready-made gloves, it allows you to pinch the dough off a lot easier. So what I'm doing is just making sure I get a good coverage of dough so that once everything cooks up, it's going to absorb any excess moisture and then you're still going to have a juicy cobbler. All right, so we're going to take our cobbler ramekins, we're going to put them in the oven and we're going to do some kitchen magic and they'll be done like that. All right, now we're gonna start a basil panko crust. All right, what we're gonna do might sound blasphemous, but it works, I promise you. All right, we're going to fry basil. So what you wanna start with is some hot oil and a wing and a prayer, all right? So when you drop cold or fresh basil into hot oil, it is definitely going to react, all right? That's why we got these protective sleeves on our coats to protect us from what is about to happen. Hold on one second. So if the basil does not go clack, 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 the oil's not hot enough and you're not gonna get the reaction you want. All right. So we need our basil to get, so what's happening is all the water is getting released from the basil and it's going to become this very cool translucent type of product. This does not happen with every basil, all right? This is like that special girl you like, all right? Not every move works with every girl, all right? But Basil, she is definitely going to respond differently to hot oil. You can't do this with cilantro or parsley or mostly any other green herb, all right? So we're gonna add us some more basil. Now the more basil we add, more flavor, the more intense the flavor, the brighter the green, all right? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a bright, vibrant green to our crust, all right? So we're gonna put our basil down, let it dry out, and we're gonna add some more basil to the pot. And a lot of people are like, how much basil do you add? How much basil do you like? Like basil is one of my favorite herbs. I can't say my favorite because, you know, somebody might get jealous. But basil, I love it, and I don't think you can ever use too much. Now, if you say you want to use Thai basil or any other type of basil, it is definitely going to be a different flavor, and I wouldn't advise it. All right, but we're using sweet basil, so use as much as you like. All right. So right now we're only cooking this in vegetable oil. If you want to use olive oil to make a rich flavor, go right ahead. Just know that olive oil is a deeper, richer flavor. All right. So if you see now, my basil becomes this translucent type of a leaf, and this is what allows me to create my basil crust. Now, if you don't cook your basil long enough, it's going to just be soggy because all the water is not out. But if you create this translucent basil, then it's perfect. So if you see that your basil is like really beautiful, all right? It's like a piece of art, all right? So what you can also do, like if you're feeling real fancy, you can take a couple of your great pieces, like the beautiful pieces, and you can kind of set them aside for a garnish, all right? Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick out these little stems and we're gonna add it straight to our panko, all right? So we're adding all of this basil to our panko, all right? And it is very fragile. It's like a piece of tissue paper, all right? So since it's so fragile, what it's going to allow us to do, all right, it's going to allow us to turn our panko into this vibrant green crust, all right? And that's what we're looking for. Because why are we going to have basil panko crusted shrimp if it's not going to be green? And if you notice, I use my hands, everything I do. This is part of the magic. Everybody always asks me, what did you do to make the food so, oh my God. My hands, my love, my magic, all the above. Now you might have a couple of pieces that didn't all the way break down, but that's all right. That's all right, because we accomplished our goal, all right? We got this beautiful green crust, and we're gonna add this to our shrimp, all right? So now that we've got our basil panko crust ready, we got our shrimp, all right? So one, don't forget to season your shrimp. Like everybody thinks that you don't have to add a little salt, a little flavor to it, all right? Like everybody who say they don't cook with salt, nobody eats their food, I promise you, all right? So what I did was I just got a little garlic salt here, did a little sprinkle. We're gonna just toss that around, make sure that it gets all nice and evenly coated, all right? And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna dip our shrimp in a little heavy cream mixture here, and we're gonna coat it with panko, all right? So if you notice, our shrimp turns green. Remember when they was like, you want green eggs and ham? Well, we got green shrimp. I promise you it's gonna taste better than you ever thought, all right? And it's not fried, all right? So it's still healthier than your fried options, all right? Now, once you use this green panko and the shrimp, don't use it again. It is now shrimpy, all right? And it ain't gonna save. Don't save it, don't do nothing else but throw it out when you're done. All right, because somebody might come and think that, ooh, I can use this for, no, they can't. So what I like to do is I like to count 3 shrimp per person. Why? Because this is an appetizer. Now, if it's not an appetizer and you got a hungry family, then just go ahead and do it all. But if you're trying to be fancy, just do 3. 3 is a good number because it's an odd number and it looks good on the plate. Even numbers just kind of look boring, you know what I mean? So once you get your shrimp nice and evenly coated, you want to make sure that your oven is set to 325 degrees. Don't do the 350. I know everybody wants to do 350 degrees. At 350, it's going to turn your panko golden brown, all right? We don't want golden brown. We want to keep this beautiful green. We put a lot of work to making it green, all right? So, we got our shrimp laid out on the pan. Yada yada, and all right, we're gonna throw it in the oven for about 10 minutes, maybe 15. All right, you gotta know your oven better than I know your oven. But at the end of the day, you wanna make sure your shrimp is done all the way through before you serve it to anybody. All right, so as we got our shrimp in the oven, we're gonna make a quick sauce for our shrimp. All right, nothing fancy dancy, just something sweet and simple, all right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Vidalia onion. Why you say a Vidalia onion? Because it's sweet, all right? You know, if you're from Georgia, you know, a little southern hospitality in the plate. All right, so we're gonna just super mince our onion, all right? So what we want to do is we want to mince our onion. So we don't want a lot of little pieces, like a lot of big pieces. We just want to get that onion flavor in there, right? So we're going to take some of our onion, and then we're going to take a little red pepper. Why red pepper? Because I like the color red, and red looks good on a plate. And we also want to have a little contrast on our plate, so we got green shrimp, so we get a little red freckles in there. All right. And then we're gonna do a little sherry cooking wine, just a little bit. What's gonna happen is, as this wine evaporates, it's gonna leave flavor, and then what we're gonna add is a little bit of cold butter, a little bit of cream to it to stabilize our sauce, and it's a simple broken butter sauce. Let me pick up my tongs real quick. All right, all right. All right, if you see steam coming up, what's happening is evaporation and concentration. All right, let me slow that down. As the liquid evaporates, the flavors concentrate, and that is part of building flavor on layers and layers, all right? So what we're looking for is that our pan is just about almost dry, all right? And as it's almost dry, don't forget to add a little bit more salt to it, all right? Just because. Why? Just because. All right, and I like paprika. It's gonna give us a deeper, redder color. I know that might not be the right English, but that's why I get paid to cook, because I ain't do good in school, all right? So we're gonna add us some cold butter to it, all right? And we're gonna take the pot off of the heat. And then we'll let our cold butter do its thing. We're gonna add another little dob of cold butter. He said, that's a lot of butter, all right? And you ever been told you got too much money or too much love? Can't have too much butter. All right, we're gonna add us a little bit of cream, and then that helps stabilize our sauce. I wish y'all could smell what I'm smelling. You get to taste what I'm tasting. It ain't even fair to y'all. It really ain't. All right, just a little bit more, a little bit more. Do. All right. And now, if it don't make you smile when you taste it, the food ain't done. If you don't hum a little bit after swallowing, haha, yeah, I said that. If that spoon wasn't metal, I'd swallow it. I tell you, my goodness. All right, so we got our broken butter sauce. We got our beautiful basil leaf garnish, and we're about to pull our shrimp out the oven, plate it up. And all of this good loving we put into the food, we gotta make sure when we plate it up, it looks just as good. All right, so let me pull our shrimp out of the oven and we're gonna finish it off. So we got our beautiful broken butter sauce here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna sauce our plate. All right. So we got us a nice little rosé pink going on here. We got a little crunch from the onions, a little crunch from the bell peppers to give our senses some excitement, all right? Because a boring plate and a boring whatever, it's just, you want to excite your mouth, all right? And that is the combination of textures and the combination of flavors, all right? All right. Now, remember what I said earlier? One, we got our vibrant green shrimp. So when it hits the plate, people ain't gonna know what to think. And then we're looking for a little bit of height, all right? So we want to create depth. We're gonna bring it up high. And we're using odd numbers because odd numbers make our eyes pop. I don't know why. I don't know the scientific explanation for it, but odds look better than evens on the plate. All right. So here we have our basil crusted shrimp with our broken butter sauce, and shebang bang boom. All right, we are going to start on our cumin crusted salmon on a bed of shredded cabbage. Now, if you've ever worked with cabbage, you understand it's really, really hard, and either you need a strong knife and a strong hand. So I'm going to teach you how to shred this cabbage down without going crazy, all right? So what you want to do is you want to start, you see I started with the, what you call that, the root end of it, all right? And then I'm cutting straight down. All right, so when you get your half a cabbage, what you want to do is you want to cut it down again so that we can take out the center core. So as we take out the core, it allows us to further get into the cabbage a lot easier. So then we can just peel off the different layers so easy, and then you don't have to worry about these big hunky clunky cabbages. Now, when I was a kid, now I love my grandma, I love her to death, but she used to make cabbage in these big hunks, and then she'd boil it on the pot, and when you walk in the house, it would smell like cabbage water. I wasn't a fan of that. I never liked it, from the smell to the texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shred this super fine, all right? So the finer you shred it, the easier it is to cook and the better it feels in your mouth. I know that don't sound right, but that's what I mean, all right? And also we're gonna add some nice red peppers to it. Why red peppers? Because I like the color red. So when you're cutting your bell peppers, you wanna cut them from the inside out, because the skin is tough, but the flesh is soft. All right. Now also we're gonna add some of our onion to it. Now, I think you should add onion to every dish, all right? Because that's where the love comes from. Because when you cut an onion, you cry a little bit, just a little bit. And those tears, when they get into your food, I'm just playing. But that is what, the love comes from. It's that extra step that you take. All right, and onions are good for the blood, they're good for the flavor, they're good for everything, all right? So we have our nice shredded cabbage, we have our red peppers, and we have our shredded onions, right? So from there, we're gonna put those in a bowl and kind of set them to the side. All right, so since we got our vegetables cut, we're gonna start on our sauce, and our sauce is gonna be making in the background while we finish our salmon. So our sauce is a blueberry balsamic reduction, all right? So when I say a reduction, what we're doing is we are adding all our ingredients together and letting it cook down, and as the water evaporates, the flavors concentrate and the sauce reduces. All right, so we're going to start with some water. I know, not too much water because we don't want to have to reduce it for all day long. All right, we're going to start with some blueberries. We're going to pour in some sugar. I know that looks like a lot of sugar, but it has to go against the balsamic, all right? Because the balsamic is going to be one of the main features in the sauce. But balsamic, it's a bit harsh, all right? It's a bit harsh. So you got to soften it up with some sugar, all right? Now, as these flavors just come together, they're going to start boiling and reducing. So as that's going to the side, we're going to bring out our salmon. We have a nice, beautiful piece of salmon. Now, if you are lucky enough, I will always suggest getting you a piece of Norwegian salmon because it's fattier, the flavors are rich because the salmon is in a colder environment, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our salmon on a slight bias to give it a little look, all right? All right. So what you also want to do is you want to make sure that you score the skin of your salmon. That will keep it from raveling up while it's cooking, if that's the right term that I need to use, but you want to make sure you score it like simple and so. Make sure you have you a sharp knife because if not, it's going to be impossible. So since we have our salmon, we're going to make our cumin crust. All right, we're going to start off with our base is cumin. All right, cumin is one of the spices that is used in just about every cuisine, from Chinese to Mexican to all over the world. All right, so cumin is going to be our base. Then we're also going to add a little paprika. All right. Paprika, like by itself, is not good enough. You know what I mean? But it is a good carrier, right? It gives it the blackening look that we're looking for, and it helps give us an overall rounded flavor. All right, we're also going to use some black pepper. Just a little hint of cardamom. Why? Because I like cardamom. All right, and that's the only reason why. All right. And then we're going to use our garlic salt. Now when you're making your spice blend, you don't want to add salt first because everybody likes salt. So what we're going to do is first we're going to mix up our spices. Yes, I'm using my finger. Okay, it's okay to use your finger. Remember that finger got you in trouble a while ago. Maybe I can't use that lyric. All right, so when you get your spice mix, what you want to do is you want to taste it. And this ain't the easy part of life, but you need to taste your spice blend. So, okay. So as you breathe out your nose, you can find all the different spices and let you know if the concentration is right enough. And then we're going to add our garlic salt. All right. All right, here we go. And you want to make sure that it's not too salty, because it'd be a shame to make all of this here and then have a salty product. If it don't make your lips smack, it ain't good enough. If you see the small bubbles on our balsamic reduction, the small bubbles lets you know that the water is evaporating and we are starting what we call like the candying process. With that sugar concentration, is going to start to candy our blueberries just a little bit and thicken up our sauce to a nice viscosity. All right, so as that's going, what we're going to do, we're going to take our cast iron skillet. All right, if you ain't got a cast iron skillet, shame. shame. All right, get you one. They not that expensive and they last forever. So even if you can't cook and you burn a lot, especially if you burn a lot, get you a cast iron skillet, because you can't really ruin it. All of these fancy dancy pans that you get, and they're like $100 a pan, and as soon as you burn it, it's ruined. You can't ruin a cast iron skillet. And even if you think you ruined it, all you got to do is re-season it. All right, so as our cast iron skillet is heating up, what we're going to do is we're going to add a very, very, very generous coating of our spice to our salmon. All right, now since it's not too salty, we don't have to worry about adding too much spice. All right, so what we're going to do is all right, rub it in, flip it, smack it, all of that. All right, and then you want to make sure that you get the skin side also. Now, if you're one of those who does not like the skin of salmon or fish, you can easily take it off. If you are using the skin side, make sure that it is no scales on there. All right, because cooking it with the scales is just not delicious. All right, so to our cast iron skillet, we are going to add butter. All right, butter makes it better. All right, keeping an eye on my sauce at the same time. So I want to make sure that my pan is super hot. So we want to make sure that, and yes, it is hot. I would not advise touching a hot pan, but I got hot hands. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the skin side down. All right, we want to make sure that it gets a nice sear on that. All right, so let your salmon cook. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm kind of holding it down so that it doesn't start to curl up on me. All right, what you smelling? You are smelling the love in the air. All right, I'm about to flip my salmon because I'm pretty sure that my skin is ready and it's nice and crispy. All right. Ooh, look at her. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to finish our salmon in the oven for another 4 minutes. Maybe 5, all right? I'm bad with time. All right, so while our salmon is in there, we're gonna get our pan nice and hot, all right? So we're gonna add butter to our pan. And then from there, we're gonna add us a little bit of turmeric, all right? Maybe a lot of it, I don't know, it's your preference, all right? So I like to get my spices nice and toasted with the fat. So a lot of people like to ask me, how hot should the fire be, or how high should the pan be? It's really up to your speed of thought. Like if you're a slow thinker, then you should put it on low. If you're a quick thinker and you move fast like me, you should cook it on high, because I don't have a lot of patience, real talk. All right. So we got our pan nice and hot. We got the turmeric in there. And then we're gonna turk and add our cabbage and our peppers, all right? So a lot of people like to do this whole moving and pushing around concept. You wanna let your food cook, like let it just get in the pan and stay together for a minute, all right? This is the cuddle session. You know what I mean? This is the little foreplay before you get to the action, all right? Then we're gonna add us a little salt to it. Why? Because you need to add a little salt to it, all right? That's the kissing part of it, you know? So once you hear it sizzling, it's talking to you. When it's talking to you, that's when you know she's ready, all right? And you gonna pop her up a little bit, all right? Spin around, throw in the air a bit, you know? We got a lot of spices. I'm gonna add just a little bit of sugar. Just a little bit. Why sugar? because cabbage can sometimes be a bit bitter, all right? So we don't want it to be bitter. So we're just gonna cook it till it's still keep a crunch, but kind of soft, if that makes any sense to you, all right? I want you to kind of walk with me with your mouth. So let it cook for a minute, and then I'm gonna check on my salmon. I know that was not 5 minutes, but we're using kitchen magic, and kitchen magic means time does not exist. All right. So you really want to pull your salmon before it starts to leak out that white stuff, all right? So the white stuff is the sign that you are cooking your protein, all right? That means your protein is starting to coagulate, your fish is done. You don't have to overcook salmon. That is the biggest atrocities in most places. They're so scared of undercooking that they overcook. And if you ever had an overcooked piece of fish, then it don't taste like you want to eat it, all right? So my cabbage has a nice, let's see, we got to make sure it has a nice crunch to it. Yep. Has a nice crunch, still contains some of those nutrients in it. Turn off our heat and we're gonna plate up. Now plating up does not have to be too intimidating, but it's like framing your masterpiece, you know what I mean? Like, why make a beautiful painting without a frame? All right, so what we're going to do is, one, we're going for the center of the plate. We're trying to create a little height, all right? And if you notice, I got me a nice white plate so that the colors that I'm using will pop, all right? We got this nice bright red, some golden yellow cabbage, and now we're going to skin side up. Why skin side up? Because we made sure that skin is crispy and done perfect. And now, if you see our sauce, all right, that is the consistency we're looking for. All right, so then we can just drizzle that around the plate there. And I like to get some real blueberries on top. All right, we're gonna do some blueberries on the plate to give it some more loving and loving. All right, now we have our blueberry crusted salmon. And if you want to take a look at there, all right, so you get both views of it. Bon appetit. Thank you for joining me for the secret ingredient, where we made a basil panko crusted shrimp with a broken butter sauce, cumin rubbed salmon with a turmeric cabbage and a blueberry balsamic glaze, and homemade blueberry cobbler. My name is Chef Rashaad. You can find me at Chef Night on Instagram. That is CHEFNITE. All right, where you get to be a chef for the night.